guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using, this is the Bitty Buzzwords. This set is such a good set. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And we're going to be using a ton of cover plates. So you probably noticed from the title of the video, we're talking about, those inky backgrounds that you have that you don't really know what to do to. Fast and easy answer is cover plates. So I showed you a bunch. The only one I didn't end up using, I think, was the snowfall. I did include how I created my inky backgrounds, but I'm assuming that most of you probably have some in your stash. But nonetheless, this is how I did mine. I used all distress inks and a lot of just like different watercolor techniques. So this one is more of like ink smushing. The more water you have, the less pigmented it's going to be. And I wasn't really happy with how much pink I was getting. My red was kind of taking over. My candied apple was a very juicy ink pad. So I dried it down and then I tried it again to see if I could get more pigment on there, and I used less of the candy apple and it still wasn't super intense, which is really what I wanted. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going direct to paper. That's what I'm doing. Only for the pink though. The red was plenty strong. So I just went direct onto my watercolor paper with my picked raspberry, and then I just turned it over and smushed it just to kind of smooth it out, and then I was much happier with that intensity. So we're just going to go through here and you'll see the different ways that I do it. Here what I'm doing is I'm adding some perfect pearls to the background, which is just a little bit of shimmer, kind of breaks up the color, makes the background just a little bit more interesting to look at. And of course it adds the shine, which I'm a big fan of. I dried these down. There is some warping because I don't tape my paper when I'm doing like ink smushing. I'm not even sure how you would do that, honestly. Flip the whole board over, whatever. And then for the yellowish orange card, I went direct to paper. In one of them I just did it randomly, and another one I went more of like a lighter in the center, darker on the outside edges. But anyway, the whole point of this video is, what do we do? Like, we all get, at least I do, like ink smushing and watercolor techniques are super fun and they're easy and they're fast. And then before you know it, you have 4 backgrounds, 6 backgrounds, 8 backgrounds. But oftentimes I don't really know what to do with them. Like, they're fun to make and I enjoy them. Like, I enjoy the creative process, but then it's like, well, how do I turn this into something? And so that's why I really wanted to do this video, because cover plates are the easiest way that I have found to turn them into anything. So here for this one, I'm using Perfect Pearls again, but actually I'm using the gold. If you're ever using Perfect Pearls and you find that the shine just isn't there, you may need to just add a little bit more pigment to your water so that the pigment is more concentrated in the water, and not quite so just like washed out. And again, dried it and then moved on to the next one. This technique is a little bit different. I chose mustard seed and crushed olive for my more yellow card. I chose the crushed olive because it is a green, but it's a very yellow green. And for this one, I'm just going to be doing just like a simple gradient. And it's not like the more ink smushed look. It's a very smooth gradient, and I'm just going to build this up until I'm happy with the amount of color that I have. You can dry them in between if you would like, or you can just, you're not working with very much water for this particular technique, and the paintbrush that I'm using is a 1-inch flat brush. So I started with the yellow at the top and then worked my way down, and then I went from the green at the bottom and worked my way up until I was happy with the way that it looked. So anywho, oftentimes we have these things and we don't really know what to do with them. The cover plates are so easy. Like, you don't even have to think about it. And that is why they work for me. I'm not even a dye person. I don't even really like dyes. I mean, I understand their usefulness and I think other people make really beautiful things with them, but it's not a type of creating that kind of feeds my need to be creative. For this green one, I went with the ink smushing where you kind of dry it in between and then just keep dipping it back into the color. I found that the rustic wilderness was like a little bit too strong. I mean, I like a good green, but it was like, woo, it was getting me. So I ended up adding in more of the Mermaid Lagoon and the mustard seed. And then once that was done and dry, I did drip some large water droplets on it. One of the benefits of distressing, because obviously it reacts with water, and that means that you can lift it. And again, just making these backgrounds a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. And then I did do a little bit of spattering of color here for each one of the colors. I used the mustard seed, the Mermaid Lagoon, and then the bottom one is Mowed Lawn because it matched the green, the like the majority of the green the closest. And then I'm going to call that one and move on to the next. For this one, I'm actually going to do two. One of them is going to be the more smooth gradient, and one of them is going to be a little bit more broken up. And the reason that is because I'm using this one with the birch trees cover plate, which is actually two different color plates. Do you guys remember those fashion plates from when we were kids? Like where you would put the different outfits together and you would trace over them and then you would color them. That's what I think of when I think of color plates. My mother will remember this because I played with them endlessly. Why? Because I could color them. That is why. But anywho, so one of them will be smooth and then one of them will be more broken up, and the more broken up will actually be my base. And that is because I wanted it to kind of look like it was maybe like a little bit snowy in the woods. But some of these are 2-part cover plates, and some of them are, well, the prism one at the end is actually 3. Like you get really, really crazy good dimension, but I only use 2 of them. So just whatever you have, whatever floats your boat. And one of them isn't even like it's an impression plate. But anyway, so the point is, you can do this with large, like the card designs at the end. You can do with large stamp backgrounds. You can do with stencil backgrounds. Those designs will work for anything where you want the background to kind of be the start of the show. But when I find that I've, sat down and I had a really fun kind of play session with all of my different, watercolors, whether that's distress ink, distress oxides, actual, like I have Daniel Smith watercolors, like whatever it is, whatever medium that you're kind of playing around with, and you have these buildup of backgrounds that you want to turn into cards. These are super great, really simple designs. And that is where the Bitty Buzzwords comes in. This is hands down one of my favorite sets that Honeybee has ever released because it has stamps and dies that coordinate. It has the large script sentiments, and then it has a bunch of different sub sentiments that you can put together in different ways. So basically, for all 6 of these cards, I only needed this one sentiment set, and they all have different sentiments, and there were still sentiments I did not use. To me, that is absolutely worth spending my money on. Just because you get so much more out of it. And they have different ones, they have like Bitty Buzzwords for fall, if you're a person who's super, into fall. And they have some other ones, but this one, the first one that they released, which is just the Bitty Buzzwords, is such an excellent set. It's just so, so good. So yeah, anyway, what's been going on in my life? What have I been doing? I'm not really sure. We started taking down our Christmas stuff today. We're probably a week behind like everybody else, but because New Year's was on a weekend and then like we went back to work on Monday, there wasn't enough time to get it down. So we started doing that process this weekend and getting all those things put away. It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. I love decorating for the holidays. I love having my house be decorated for the holidays. but the transference of items, because like, this is so funny. Oh, let's talk about this one. So for this one, I'm doing the same thing with the ink smushing, but I'm actually adding the perfect pearls right into the mix on my desk so that the shimmer will kind of be all over everything. Alternatively, you could put perfect pearls in a spray bottle with some water and you could use that to spray everything down and it would add shimmer everywhere. However, I only own one spray bottle and it's a spray bottle that I use for everything, so I'm not willing to put shimmer into it. So this is my kind of workaround for that. Just because, like I said, I only have the one. So anyway, I did not I wasn't a big decorator, really, ever. And so when we moved into this house, it was something that I wanted to, it was like a goal of mine to try to be better about, having home decor things. And then we had the furniture business. And so then I picked up even more things. And so it just made it easier to decorate. So that is what I did. Here, so the way that I put my cover plates on my watercolor paper, which by the way is Canson Monteval watercolor paper, it's one of the better ones that I found for a decent price. But anywho, so it's cut to 6 by 4 1/4. So I just line up 3 of the edges, and then the cover plate will actually cut it off for most cases. This one, which is I think it's the quarter foil, this top piece will cut through everything. The bottom piece, which is the base layer, will not. So I'll have to trim that one down. It's more of just an impression plate. Also, this one here is just an impression plate, so I'll line it up and then tape it. I will tell you, I'm using the satin tape. It's like a low tack tape. I will not peel it off the back. Like, some of these pieces are just too dainty and I'm not willing to risk ripping them. So I just adhere it with the tape on the back and I've not had an issue. But you do want to make sure that you kind of like rub it on your hand or stick it to your clothes once or twice so that it is genuinely low tack, because with watercolor paper, I don't know why, but I have so much more risk of like ripping. So here for this birch tree, there's a base layer and a top layer. For the top layer, I'm actually going to cut it out of white because that one that we did with all of the shimmer is going to be my card base, like the card front base. And then here, these winter prism ones, like I said, I didn't use the third one, but you totally could. I cut all of my bitty buzzwords out of the actual words out of white and the shadows out of black, just to keep it nice and easy for myself. And then I just ran them all through. So for some of them, I didn't worry about keeping the inside pieces. For this particular one, I always keep these hearts. I just keep them in a little cup. And then when I want to use them for other projects, I have them there as like little accent pieces and places of like gems or things like that. Because it cuts out like a million hearts, and why would I throw those away? They're beautiful. Little watercolor hearts. So I'm just going to go through and remove the pieces parts. Most of them are super easy, and I was able to actually do it right after I took it out of my platinum. I would just, like this one in the back, that's exactly what I did. I just popped them all right into my trash can. You could totally keep them. I've seen videos where people use them with like some press and seal and they adhere them that way. But I just was not, that wasn't going to happen for me. That wasn't going to happen for me. And so that's fine. It's no big deal, whichever way you choose to do it. And then after we pop all of these out, then we will get to kind of adhering them where they need to go. Like I said, this one is 3 with that watercolor piece being the base. This palm frond one probably took me the longest to pop out all of the things. And one of the things that I have found that makes it easier is if I kind of like wave the paper. I know that's how do I make a wave with the paper. Like I just kind of bend it around the edges, and it kind of helps those little pieces pop out so that I don't have to spend 1 million years trying to pop them all out. And so this one, I did not pop them all out into the trash. This is another one you could totally keep them if you wanted to and use like the little diamonds as accents, but I don't make a lot of purple cards. I just don't. And you probably noticed we have a rainbow theme going on here, and that was intentional. So for putting them all together, some of them I gave a colored card base to. And in this case, like I found I think this is actually cherry colored cardstock. But I liked the way that it looked. It matched the same kind of tone. So I just adhered that down. For some of them, I didn't need a base. So for like this one with the quarter foil, I didn't need a base because I have that base that's already die cut, like that has the impression in it. So I was just able to put the top layer on top of it, and then that is my card front, so on and so forth. The yellow one I didn't even have to do anything to, but just trim it down because it was just an impression plate. This one here, so this came out of my like scrap stash, and it actually got bent. And this is a great way to use those pieces up because the cover plate is super kind of distracting, and that's the focal point. Nobody will even notice that underneath it, my cardstock has like a little bendy line in it because they'll be so distracted by my beautiful watercolored palm fronds. So it was just a really great excuse to kind of use that one up without having to trim that piece off and throw it away because we're all paying for our things and I don't want to throw my cardstock away. So yeah, anyway, I was not really ever into home decor, but then got more into it. And now I like the decorations. I don't change mine as often as like some people change them for every season. My sister is one of them. And some people, change them with every holiday, like they decorate for Valentine's or they decorate for St. Patrick's Day. I'm not that. That's not me. I just have a couple of general decorations that we move around. I keep them in my china cabinet in the underneath because I also keep them up top because they act as decor in the up top part. But I don't own china. I don't really know if that's a thing anymore. It used to be, but I don't know that it's a thing anymore. But so I keep my home decor items in there for when I used to stage for our furniture. And then, I just kind of swap them out around the house, periodically, whenever I'm feeling like it, or whenever Eric's feeling like it. It is what it is. But the swapping of the things at the holiday season, because we have so much Christmas decorations between me and him, like we have to like tote up everything, and then we carry it down to the basement while the Christmas stuff is out, for that like 2 months. And then we tote it back upstairs. So I unpacked all the totes today and repacked them with the Christmas stuff. So we still have our tree to get down. I haven't gotten to that yet, but there's a lot of ornaments on that bad boy too. So back to the card construction. So here, these are all of my little sub-sentiments. I heat set them in white with white embossing powder on black. And then all of those got popped up on foam. The letters themselves, like the words themselves, just got glued down flat. I did a couple of different orientations. Some of them were in the bottom left. Some of them were in the bottom right. Some of them were in the top left. Some were in the center. But what I found after I was done is they looked a little meh. And I did not want to cut them because I didn't want to risk losing any of my pieces parts. They're being held together by that frame. And so instead what I did was I cut a white frame, which is one of the reasons why this Fiskars trimmer with the wire is so immensely helpful because it shows exactly where you're going to cut. So I cut a couple of white frames. Some of them, like the yellow one, I did trim down. So I trimmed about 1/8 of an inch off each side, so giving me like a full 1/4 of an inch that was trimmed off. And then I did want to show you can cut them if you have glued very well, or if it's like this one where I'm not really worried about any of the negative space being lost because it's, it's not real delicate or dainty. So I was able to trim this one down, and then in doing that, I could pop it up over, you know, a card base. I didn't, I glued it down flat, but it would be an option. So here I just wanted to show you that this will go over this cover plate super easily. Like, I'm just going to add my liquid adhesive. This is Honeybee's Precision Glue. And then I'm going to line it up around the edges. I didn't have any issues with it sticking. I didn't have any issues, or I'm sorry, with it not sticking, I should say. I didn't have any issues with it looking like not how I wanted it to look. I think it finished off the card nicely, and they did need something. They just needed a little bit of a neutral color to kind of ground them. Here is that red one that I was talking about. I just glued it down flat onto my card base and had a nice white border. Did I do it right now? I can't remember. I might have I was like batching. That's what I was doing. I was just like doing all of the things, all of them at one time. Okay, here's where we're going to get into more specifics for the design. So now I have the script sentiment. I have a heat embossed sub sentiment. Some of them, like this one, is interesting enough. We have so much going on in the background that's super interesting, and I love this die. I've used it these cover plates, I've used them multiple times to make multiple different cards, and I think they're beautiful. This one only needed some gems. This red one is a little lackluster, let's be honest. It's very pretty, and I love the color plate, but there's not a lot of contrast here. So in order to make my background more interesting, I went in with a white gel pen and just traced some of the hearts, totally random. And then I went back in with Stardust stickles and filled in some of the hearts at random. You could also go back in and like plug in some of the die cuts to create more solid areas. But just these simple things, which are relatively inexpensive, you know, your stickles and your white gel pen, will really kind of just bring up that background a notch. Another thing that you can do is add more gems. This one is a little bit more costly, so I didn't add as many as I could have, but I picked just a pattern that was going to allow me to put down some gems in the centers to make it, you know, shiny and sparkly. Alternatively, you could use like pearls, you could use dewdrops, or you could use colored stickles. Now, I use Stardust stickles in the other open areas to add some glitter, but if you have colored stickles, that would work as well. This one, I added just a little bit more color with a Copic marker. You guys know I believe in transparency. This is my least favorite card. Probably because I don't like yellow to begin with. But nonetheless, I used that yellow green to add in some of the leaves. I went back in with a white gel pen, which is very challenging to see because it is a yellow background, so not a ton of contrast. But I went back in and added some details with the white gel pen, and then I did go back in with the stickles and just kind of outline some of the swirls to, again, give just a little bit more interest. And then that is pretty much all the cards. So as far as story time goes, I still have to take my tree down. And then I'm hoping to be done with that, house clean, and moved on from the holidays. And I hope you guys learned a little bit of something. I hope that you're inspired to use up those backgrounds that you have, or gave you an idea for how to use some of your larger backgrounds. And then that is it. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.